From the moment the heavy glass doors slammed open inside the sunlit lobby of Orion Dynamics, the atmosphere shifted as though a storm had stepped right into the building. People scattered as the famously ruthless billionaire, Aleister Crowell, stormed across the marble floor with a file crushed in his hand, his jaw tight enough to crack. And walking a few steps behind him, as unnoticed as the shadow of a flame, was Marina Hale, the quiet maid's daughter who had no business being anywhere near a man who owned half the city. But fate doesn't ask permission. It simply drags people forward, shoving them into moments far larger than their lives. And this was the moment that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself, because with a sharp turn, Aleister stopped, shoved the file against her chest, and with a cold, mocking smirk, told her that if she could fix what his top executives failed to solve, he'd give her $100 million. What he didn't know was that the girl he dismissed as invisible had already lived through battles money couldn't buy her out of, and this challenge, as impossible as it seemed, would ignite the fire she had spent her whole life burying. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected miracles, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube right now. Your support helps us bring more life-changing stories to you. The story truly began long before that explosive morning. Marina Hale, 24, slender, reserved, with dark chestnut hair always tied back in a simple knot, grew up in the servant quarters behind the lavish Crowell estate. Her mother, Lorraine, was the housemaid everyone overlooked, the soft-spoken woman who woke before dawn to polish the marble steps and stayed past sunset to ensure the silverware shone. Marina spent her childhood watching the wealthy glide past her with eyes that never met hers. She used textbooks she borrowed from library donation boxes, studied under broken light bulbs, and built her education from scraps simply because she believed she deserved a life wider than the narrow corridors she cleaned. Yet life rarely bent for girls like her. She never had connections, privileges, or even a laptop of her own. But she had a brilliant mind, one that could see patterns where others saw only chaos. Her dream was to become a systems analyst, designing structural solutions for large corporations, the kind of mind that could turn failing infrastructures into thriving machines. But dreams cost money, and hers slipped away when Lorraine fell severely ill, forcing Marina to abandon her final year of school so she could work mornings at a small tech repair stall and nights helping her mother clean the Crowell estate. She kept her ambitions quiet because hopes were fragile things in homes like theirs, but deep inside, she carried them like a secret sunrise. Aleister Crowell, at the other end of the spectrum, lived in a world constructed from glass towers, power lunches, and booming boardrooms. Fortune magazine once called him the man with a mind wired for precision, but brilliance without compassion often cut sharper than any blade. His empire was massive, but lately, cracks had formed beneath it. A critical division of Orion Dynamics was collapsing due to a multi-layered system failure. Millions were being lost daily, and despite hiring the best consultants, no one had managed to pinpoint the tangled root cause. Desperation made him harsher than usual, and the people around him felt it like a slap of winter air. That morning, when Marina arrived at the estate to assist her mother with cleaning the upper study, Aleister saw her holding a stack of organized documents Lorraine had asked her to sort. He snatched them, scanned the neat handwritten arrangement, and noticed how efficiently everything was categorized, far better than his executives usually managed. Suspicion, annoyance, and an odd flicker of curiosity crossed his expression. On impulse, he decided to test her intelligence in the cruelest way possible. He handed her one of the corrupted system reports, one that teams of experts hadn't been able to decode, and sneered that if she could fix it, he'd give her $100 million. The staff froze at the sound of that number, but Marina didn't. She simply nodded, the quiet determination in her eyes so steady it somehow irritated him. She knew he meant it as mockery. She also knew $100 million was not for people like her. But she didn't do it for the money. She did it because solving problems was the one thing life could never strip from her, and because her mother's weak smile that morning had reminded her of everything she wished she could give her but couldn't. The hours after she received the file were a battle against impossibility. She returned to their small servant room, spread the documents across her bed, and spent the entire day beneath the soft glow of afternoon sunlight pouring through the small window. Her fingers moved with instinctual precision, tracing pathways of data, spotting inconsistencies others had missed. The problem was not technical, she soon realized, it was structural. The failure was not in the coding but in the misalignment between three merged divisions that had never synchronized their communication mapping. It wasn't a system collapse, it was a misrouted chain triggered by a single flawed integration protocol buried deep beneath layers of updated patches. By the time night fell, She had mapped everything by hand, page after page of diagrams, clear explanations, and detailed steps for correction. She carried the entire stack back to the main house the next morning, her heart steady but her hands trembling slightly. She didn't expect anything. Not praise. Not money. Not even acknowledgement. She just wanted to return the report because she believed people should finish what they start. When she approached Alistair in the bright open living room, the sun lighting the polished floor, he barely glanced at her. But when she quietly told him she had finished, he gave a cold, dismissive laugh and said he'd look at it if he had time. His voice carried that sharp burn of arrogance that made those around him shrink. She simply placed the stack on the table and walked away, but Alistair froze when he actually skimmed the first few pages. The girl had not only solved the issue, she had dissected it with an accuracy that rivaled his most expensive teams. Her work was elegant, brilliant, and perfectly logical. Every diagram, every explanation, every proposed fix aligned seamlessly. It wasn't a guess. It wasn't luck. It was genius hidden beneath worn shoes and a quiet posture. Something inside him shifted without warning. It wasn't admiration, not yet, but a rattling of the iron walls he'd built around his certainty that only the elite possessed real intellect. He rushed to the company headquarters, shoved her handwritten stack into the trembling hands of his lead engineers, and demanded a verification. Hours later, the team confirmed every detail. There was no flaw in her solution. None. If executed, it would save the company hundreds of millions within weeks. And for the first time in years, Alistair Crowell felt something unfamiliar, a sting of humility. He returned to the estate, found Marina helping her mother dust the chandelier, and called her name. His voice was different. Not sharp. Not condescending. Just stunned. When she walked over, he didn't sneer. He didn't mock. He didn't pretend she was invisible. He simply told her the truth, that she had solved the unsolvable, but what followed was what truly broke the air around them. His voice cracked slightly as he said he intended to honor his promise, every word of it. $100 million, transferred legally, publicly, and without delay. But Marina shook her head. Her refusal struck him harder than any corporate defeat. She told him she didn't want the money, because money offered in mockery holds no real value. What she wanted was a chance. A real opportunity to use her mind and build something meaningful. She wanted employment, a fair one, where she could stand on her own skill, not charity. That request hit him in a place he had long forgotten existed. In the warm daylight filtering in through the tall windows, he looked at the quiet young woman before him, the maid's daughter with more brilliance in one hand-drawn diagram than some of his teams had shown in years, and he made a decision he had never imagined making. He offered her a position as a junior systems architect at Orion Dynamics, with full rights, full respect, and a salary that would lift her life far above the shadow she had grown in. Marina accepted, but with one condition: her mother would retire immediately from the physically demanding job she had endured for 2 decades, with full benefits. That small detail softened something deep inside him. The weeks that followed were a transformation for everyone. Marina walked into the sunlit headquarters wearing the simplest clothes she owned: pressed white blouse, gray slacks, her hair neatly tied back, but it wasn't her appearance that made heads turn. It was the quiet strength in her presence, the way she carried herself like someone who had fought for every accomplishment rather than inherited it. She became the center of whispered conversations, of awe, of disbelief. But she stayed humble. She arrived early, studied every structural layer of the company's systems, and slowly began improving processes people thought were untouchable. Alistair watched her from a distance. The more he saw, the more he questioned the life he had lived, one built on privilege, power, and walls he believed protected him but actually kept him cold. Marina's integrity, her calm, her brilliance, her refusal to be corrupted by the sudden opportunities in front of her, they changed something in him. She reminded him of what strength truly looked like.